Okay, hello everyone. My name is Bryce Payne. I'm the Vice President of the Sales Department. Adam Dumar, our Customer Service Supervisor, is also with us today again. He will be demonstrating the details and functionality of the TCN's manual-only dialing platform today. I expect this webinar will take about 30 minutes, I think, depending on questions, and I hope that the information we cover today can be beneficial to you. I want to thank you for taking the time to join us today. Hopefully everyone was able to log in okay and get into the system. Obviously there's a lot of concern, a lot of questions coming up in regards to the FCC declaratory ruling. I know there's a lot of frustration in relation to this ruling. And since the ruling on Friday, we've continued to have a lot of questions coming to us, and so we wanted to try to do our best to answer those questions and address any concerns that you might have. And one thing, you should have received an email with TCN's official statement regarding the ruling. If you have not received that, please contact customer service and they can ensure you get that. It basically goes through what our statement is in defining our system, our manually approved, our manual only system. However, we felt that due to the amount of questions, it would be best to do a review with our customers of the design and features of the manual-only platform and that TCN released back in 2013. As usual, TCN cannot give legal advice regarding compliance with the law. But TCN, as usual, TCN cannot give advice regarding the law, but TCN has done its best to interpret the demands of the FCC and has listened to the request of its customers in releasing the manual-only platform. Adam will walk you through it in order to show you how it works and how it addresses the capacity question that seems to be the central focus of the ruling. As usual, we'll take as many questions as we can during the presentation. The usual format will be that you can email me anytime during the presentation at the email shown below at bryce.payne@tcnp3.com. The email should also be there in the chat section of your webinar tool, and we will try to address as many questions as we can at the end of the presentation. That being said, we'll cover a little bit about the FCC ruling. I'm sure you probably are all well aware of the ruling at this point, but just to kind of review, the ruling came out on July 10th, 2015. It's basically defining automatic dialing systems as equipment which has the capacity to store or produce telephone numbers to be called using a random or sequential number generator to dial such numbers. The ruling was confirmed by a narrow margin of 3-2 vote, and it was basically down party lines. The 3 Democrats voted for it, while the 2 Republicans voted against it. The ruling was not to take effect until the official release of the decision, and that happened on July 10th, so it is now fully in effect. It's interesting, looking at the dissenting commissioners, they did not appear to be very happy about the decision. One of the dissenters, Commissioner Pai, I believe is how you pronounce the name, said, and I quote, "In practice, the TCPA has strayed beyond its original purpose, and the FCC can fix that. Instead, the order takes the opposite tact. This order will make abuse of the TCPA much, much easier. The primary beneficiary will be abusive trial lawyers, not consumers. After this order, pretty much any phone that is not a rotary dial phone will be an automatic dialer," unquote. The other dissenting commissioner, FCC Commissioner Michael O'Reilly, stated that the new rule was, quote, "a new low I have never seen in politics and policy making. Today's order has been hailed as protecting American consumers, but it is a farce. The order penalizes businesses and institutions acting in good faith to reach their consumers using technology," end quote. So the question really kind of comes into capacity. The FCC has stated that there must be more than a theoretical potential that the equipment could be modified to satisfy the auto dialer definition. So it seems that in an effort to clarify, even among the commissioners themselves, this has only created more frustration. It appears that the question comes down to the definition of capacity and human intervention, and there's a lot of concern and questions in regards to that. What does that mean? Are you stuck to only a rotary dial phone at this point? How do you address that, and how do you address your business needs? It is important to note that immediately upon issuing the ruling, many groups have begun their appeals lawsuit. The ACA immediately filed a suit, and now PACE, the Professional Association for Customer Engagement, has officially filed suit as well. Also, Sirius XM has also filed suit, and it looks like the Newspaper Association of America and many others are in the process of filing suit. I would assume that if enough groups file suit, it has a strong potential for getting a stay on the order while it works its way through the courts, but that remains to be seen, and we will continue to monitor the situation. So really the big question is, how does TCN's technology help you in your efforts to address these concerns? Like I mentioned before, all of our customers should have received an email like you see to the right here on the slide. That gives TCN's official statement regarding the ruling and the TCN's platform. Once again, if you have not received that email, please contact customer service so they can ensure you receive it. In 2013, TCN released a manual-only dialing platform that gives our clients the ability to open a completely separate account from their original account to a platform that has had the predictive dialer capabilities completely removed. There are very important features and functions that still remain in the system that help you in your management of your floor, all the same agent visibility, call recording, and reporting tools, but most importantly, the ability to modify the system to add auto dialer capabilities has been removed. We have looked to address the concerns by ensuring the manual-only platform does not have the present or potential capacity to auto dial. It requires human intervention, either through pressing 10 digits or clicking the customer's information after reviewing the details. There's no present or potential capacity for random or sequential number generation, and there is no present or potential capacity for predictive dialing. But we do have to give our legal disclaimer here again that TCN does not purport to give legal advice to its customers regarding compliance with the law, including TCPA. TCN recommends that you seek legal advice from your attorneys to ensure that you are not in violation of the TCPA or any law, and therefore not in breach of your agreement with TCN. With that being said, we know that TCN has the best possible solutions in the industry, and you will see that through our platform you can still maintain a high level of efficiency. At this time, I would like to turn the time over to Adam to have him show you TCN's manual-only platform and go through the various features. We want to show you what tools are there to help you with your productivity. That's our main concern here. You're going to find that our manually approved calling tool can dramatically improve your efficiency over a standard manual dialing approach, and he will go through that and show you those details. You can email any questions to me during this presentation. Once again, you should be able to see that email in the chat section of your webinar tool, and hopefully we'll be able to address all those at the end and allay any concerns that you might have. So that's a basic overview of what's come out from the FCC. We didn't want to get into great detail with that. I think a lot of people have looked at it, reviewed. The main concern is seeing what do we have, what we can do to help you from a TCN standpoint. That being said, I'm going to turn the time over to Adam, let him show you all the tools and functionality in our manual-only platform, talk about the details in regards to the contract, etc., so that you can feel comfortable as you address those concerns.
Excellent. Thank you, Bryce. So just real quick, as Bryce pointed out, this is a system that we've had available for quite some time. Some of our clients and some of the people that are on the webinar today are actually using this system right now. So this is going to be a review for some people, but there are a lot of people that either were not using when this was implemented, or it's just a new feature for them. So we want to make sure that we go over this and give everybody the chance to understand exactly what we're referring to here as our manual dial platform. And let me just pull that up while I'm talking about it. There we go. I had this set out and it looks like it closed on me, but I'll pull it back over here. Okay, so this is a sample of what our platform looks like. You'll notice that this is very similar. In fact, it is identical to the regular TCN platform. That's because, number one, from the management perspective, we wanted to keep things as similar as possible. From the agent perspective, we wanted to make essentially no changes for the agents. So the agents wouldn't even identify that there is something different about this particular platform. The same features for the agents will still be available depending on, when I say that, if agents can place manual calls, they can place manual calls. If they can receive inbound calls, they will still be able to receive those inbound calls. We haven't wanted to change that agent expectation and experience, but we did want to lock down the types of calls that they're receiving. And so the agent perspective will be identical to what they are currently used to. It's just the type of calls that they will be receiving and handling that's going to be different. I'm going to go ahead and log in as my agent right now as well. Oh. Oh, there's my problem. I apologize. That's much better. Okay. Well, this agent gets logged in. It will take a minute just while I'm doing this screen share as well. Let me jump back over to my broadcast. If I can get it to pull up. There we go. Okay. So this particular broadcast that I've set up is a we looked at this previously in our last webinar, but this is a non-predictive broadcast. This is going to use our manually approved calling system to shunt calls over to an agent to be approved, and then that agent can mark that call to be dialed or not. Okay, you will notice my throttle is just set to 1 here, obviously because this is a test scenario. I'm keeping this very low, but basically this agent would come click here to approve or reject the call that is waiting. Okay, and no new account will pop up here because I only have one at a time scheduled. Okay, from my management perspective, this call is already in progress, and as that rings through to my phone, I'll answer it in a moment, and my agent will then be on that call. So this is very similar, again, to the regular system that TCN already employs. However, this is locked out of being an automated dialing system. It will require this human intervention, someone approving calls, someone indicating that they are ready to receive that call and to process it. As that process runs through, your agents will wait for their calls. They can still do manual dialing, as we discussed. Obviously, with a manual dial call, this is 100% non-dialer. This is completely agent information that they can enter the information for that particular call. I don't have a particular example of this, but I also have available the option to send preview calls through to this agent. And here's my call popped up. Okay, so this agent was waiting for the call, received the specific call, and as you can see, no new calls are pushed into progress until this call is completed. And so I can manage and maintain a direct flow of calls to my agents without having to worry about overflooding them. This manually approved process matches exactly what we're talking about with our preview as well, that there's a human intervention, a person actually controlling what is presented to the agents and at which time. The agents themselves are able to take these calls, handle them in the normal process that they would, and they can end this call and make themselves available for the next. Okay. Obviously with preview dialing as well, which I don't have a campaign to show that, but preview dialing presents the account information to the agent, and then the agent personally approves that call and places it to go out. So the very similar process where an account is reviewed, it's determined that it can be dialed, and then it's pushed through to the system. Again, this process does not use the standard predictive dialing platform. These are completely separate features. The capability to do predictive dialing has been completely expunged from these accounts. There's no way to launch predictive calls, and for that matter, there's no way to launch even more traditional outbound dialing, like blast messaging and things of that nature. Those are completely locked out. We've removed those from the system. And so this agent is limited in the sense that they will only receive those calls that have been deemed ready for that agent. And I just want to stress again, by using this manual process, we're locking out the traditional system. This uses a completely separate platform. It's a completely separate login that would need to be accessed for these calls to be processed. This also includes the agents themselves. If you have existing agents on a standard account, they would not be able to receive these calls being processed from here. They would need to log into a separate login that only makes them eligible for calls associated with these specific settings and the specific account requirements. So anything additional from that would not be permitted for the agents to process. As far as our manual platform itself, again, what we've done here is removed certain abilities, such as being able to create templates. There's no interaction to allow, and I'm sorry, I left my standard template on my test thing, but there's no ability to create these templates that would be considered predictive. And well, and here it looks like I missed a permission on my test agent, my test account. This hunt group button should be missing here, and I'll have to look into why that's on there. But on a manual account, that would not be available. It will just show the list of hunt groups. It will show the list of templates, so they can be reviewed to ensure that you know what's on your account at any given time. But you can't make any changes to them. You can't create a new template that could be a predictive dialer. That's been completely removed from this, and so that option is just not available to you. And I apologize. There we go. The intent, again, as Bryce mentioned earlier, is that these TCPA violations are based on the idea of capacity. For a manual platform that has been set up as manual approved calling, the capacity has been removed in that to limit that exposure. So there's no longer the ability for this account, brand new account, set up exactly with the requirements that you require, will not be able to have these other options added into it at a future date. The total control on the account obviously rests with the client, But from the TCM perspective, we've removed the ability to place those calls that would be deemed inappropriate by the TCPA. So that will effectively, that will effectively require human intervention for every single call.
Okay, Adam, I appreciate the demonstration there. I take some time for some questions right now. We have the very first question that comes up is, Adam, what is the, how much faster is this system, the manual approved system, over the standard manual approach?
So I would love to get a little more background on that question, but I think in this format we probably won't be able to. As far as speed of scheduling, speed of setting up contacts, from the agent perspective, the speed at which they receive calls, there shouldn't be a change in the way those calls are sent through to the agent, because again, we're using the same options that are available to a standard account are available on these modified accounts. The process by which calls are presented to an agent are going to be the same. The process by which a manager schedules is going to be the same. It's just the capacity to do predictive dialing or any other type of dialing that's been removed. So preview calls or manual approved calls, those are still going to run under the same format that they would on a standard account. It's just removing the other calls from there. So the speed should be consistent. As far as throttle speeds, you can definitely speed those up and slow them down for the agents. But there shouldn't be a significant change in the expectation or the experience of the specific type of calls being handled. Did you have another question, Bryce?
Okay, sorry. I know just also we have a number of different clients using that system, and it sounds to me like from what I've gathered from them is they've been able to increase their efficiency by at least 4 times from a standard manual approach, so it is dramatically helping in them to penetrate their lists. Another question that came in, it says, this just talked about our system in general. It says, in your fully blended environment, if I have an agent manually dialing outbound, am I able to also have that agent available in the ACD inbound pool to handle inbound calls?
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Jumping back, yes, it did, but I just wanted to jump back. Once you threw in your statistic there, I understood your question differently. As opposed to doing pure manual dialing where an agent is only dialing, manually keying in numbers, you're correct. There will be a significant improvement on speed. I was thinking more from the perspective of a preview or a manually approved campaign running on our standard platform or the manual platform. But yes, if we're just considering a pure key-in manual dialing system, that will net a significant increase in the number of calls processed. Okay, back to your second question. And I'm sorry, can you just read that last line to me one more time?
Okay, it says, in your fully blended environment, if I have an agent manually dialing outbound, am I able to also have that agent available in the ACD inbound pool to handle inbound calls?
Very good. So that is a really important distinction. Keep in mind the restrictions being in place by the TCPA, these are specific to outbound dialing. So far, knock on wood, the FCC hasn't tried to make a limitation on inbound calls coming into your agents. So these agents are able to handle inbound calls. Now, keeping in mind that this is a separate platform, if you have an inbound line running on a standard account, you would need to make either arrangements to have those calls forwarded to these agents or just move that number from the standard platform over onto the manual platform. Once it's available on that manual platform, those manual agents are able to handle those calls just as they normally would on any other system. This is also probably worth noting that for those inbound, they can have things like messages, decision blocks based on time of day to determine, if it plays a message or goes to an agent or anything like that. For outbound dialing, you don't have those options available to you because those have been locked out. But for your inbound access, those are available and can be used.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Adam. Our next question says, since results, call dispositions are downloaded in real time, will there be a distinction in the call line from TCN that is imported into my system that it was dialed manually?
Yeah, so, and this is speaking specifically to clients that have and are managing both a standard account and a manual only account. So our reporting process is just going to show, this was the broadcast that was scheduled. By default, it won't necessarily make that distinction. However, with the customizable options that are available on our reporting software, we can easily add that in, whether it's the title of the file that's being uploaded or an actual field that's being added into that report to specify this was a manual dial broadcast. Additionally, we can add the call type, and so if you were doing a preview call on your standard campaign, we could add that in there, definitely giving you the information that you need. But again, speaking to the TCPA and the capacity question, this would need to come from a manual only account, and so we would have to specify with an added column or an added field or something that's been augmented to specify this was a manual only call from your manual only platform. Typically we would do that with the account number, or we could even set up some custom text just to specify that with a note.
Okay, very good. Our next question says, is it viable to use the one-click dial the number as opposed to the agent actually dialing all the digits?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, I'm going to have to go back to what Bryce said about legal advice. TCN can't specifically say legally this is acceptable or not. That's something that you will need to review. However, from the TCN perspective, we do have this locked in. Obviously, for the manually approved calling, the agent is specifying which accounts and which numbers should be dialed. There's not a key-in facility on that particular example that we were looking at earlier, but if we're running a preview campaign, we can put that restriction in place where this call is presented to the agent clicks place call, and then they're actually prompted, you must key in this number, and then the agent has to actually dial it either on their keypad or on their handset to specify this is the number I'm calling. They can't do a copy and paste into there. It has to be keyed in manually by the agent.
Okay, Adam, the next question says, can my agent go back and forth from the dialer system to the manual system in real time?
Yes, so they definitely can switch back and forth as needed. And I probably skipped over this a little bit quickly while I was showing the example, but the agents themselves are restricted to one login or the other at a time. So if I'm working on this manual platform, I am only going to be working on that manual platform. However, if you need to pull an agent off of that and have them do a more traditional predictive campaign, you can have them log out, log in with an alternate set of credentials to access that broadcast. But for security, they would have to maintain both of those in separate instances.
Okay, we're bumping up against the end of our time for the presentation today. We will address any additional questions that we have not gotten to that you have sent. We will definitely have customer service reach out to you and answer them personally to you. Once again, we hope that this information has been beneficial to understanding the key concept here, as we've reiterated, is this separation and the capacity, the lack of capacity for the auto dialing. But we also have to constantly reiterate that you need to review with your attorneys for anything, questions that come up. Before we end today, I would like to announce some of the exciting features that we have either just released or are getting close to release. We're going to be having a webinar on the 23rd of this month, so next week, exactly 1 week from today, to highlight what we have just released. We've released some enhanced inbound reporting features and queue callback. We're also very excited about our business intelligence tool. We have a compliance suite that will be coming out here shortly, probably a couple months. It's getting into more great detail of some of the demands that people have asked for various call controls. So it's a whole suite of compliance tools that will be coming out. And the business intelligence tool we highlighted in our last presentation of, it basically takes something that a lot of people are taking hours and hours of time to develop Excel spreadsheets. It can be done almost instantly in this business intelligence tool. And we'll be providing some efficiency consulting along with that release. A queue callback was already released. If you may or may not have an opportunity to utilize that tool for inbound calling functionality, but basically if someone comes into a queue time frame and it looks like it's going to be an extended time frame for the consumer to get to an agent, they can choose to hang up and keep their place in queue, and then when the agent is available, it'll automatically call the consumer back, obviously improving greatly the customer experience, and it also decreases costs for the call center by reducing hold time as the person sits and waits. And we're also getting closer with releasing our disconnected agent, which basically will allow for someone to be able to not have to sit on a headset listening for the call to come in. They can have the phone hung up, and that opens up the availability for administrative capabilities and reduce the need for an additional phone system as an admin phone system. So we're really excited about a lot of things that are coming out, and we'll be highlighting those things in the coming webinars that we have. We've made some great efforts to release some amazing features this year. We've already done some huge release at the first of the year. And you'll find that the TCN system is the most flexible, open system that you can find in the industry. We thank you for your time. We ask you to please join us next week as we get into detail about the features that we have recently released, and that webinar will be July 23rd at the same time frame at 2 o'clock Eastern, 12 o'clock Mountain Time. Once again, if you have any additional questions, please send them to me, and we will address those individually now that the time is up, and hopefully this can help you in moving forward. Thank you for your time today.